Hey everyone, my name's Steinberg. I'm a certified professional life coach through the Coaches Training Institute, and I'm a SPCC trained sex educator. SPCC stands for San Francisco Sex Information. This video is called the Relationship Compass, or the Sex, Romance, and Intimacy Compass. I haven't totally worked out the title yet. But the point of it is to give you this tool, this compass, to help you really narrow down what it is you're wanting in a relationship, what the relationship you want looks like. It might sound silly, but a lot of times we kind of assume that we want something and then assume we know what that means instead of really trying to figure out, what does a relationship actually mean to us? So if you're not in a relationship and we want to have one, or if you're in one and you think that it could be better, even if you don't think that it could be better, there's always something that we can work on and always something that we can improve and learn. So this compass is going to give you the tools to really stake out, put down on paper what it is you're actually looking for in a relationship. And as a byproduct of that, I think that you'll find that you're going to be more likely to get the relationship that you're looking for, or be more likely to make those improvements in the relationship you already have by being really clear about certain components of it. So before we get started in doing actual relationship compass work, I want to explain to you a little bit of the history of how I came up with the relationship compass. I think through understanding the history and process of how I came to making a video, there's also some insights that can be learned within that will help lend to the process of creating your own compass. So there are a lot of things happening in my own life overlapping that led me to this idea. There are some foundational things. So the first foundational thing is I'm a life coach and my specialty is dating and relationships. So I'm constantly thinking about dating and relationships, how they function, how they operate, things people could do better, so on and so forth. And then the other foundational thing is just my own experience. I'm in a relationship, so obviously I want that to be the best relationship I can have. So that's kind of something that's always processing in my head, along with all the things that I've experienced in my life. So this whole thing kind of started when I was taking the SPCC sex educator course. In SPCC they gave us this diagram. Let me find it here for you. Right, so you can see this is sex, romance, and intimacy. And they were kind of explaining to us how most people think that the ideal relationship falls at the intersection of sex, romance, and intimacy. That the perfect relationship is going to be the perfect combination of those three things. Of course, being that this is in San Francisco and that we're talking about the sex-positive bubble, as they call it, they certainly don't view that that's going to be the case. So at the same time this is happening, I was noticing that some of my friends are in these relationships or electing not to be in relationships because they don't fit into this mold. So it's kind of becoming this black and white thing. If it's at the very center of sex, romance, and intimacy, yes. If it's not, then we have to throw it away completely, and this person can't be in their life at all. A kind of example of this is like, let's say that, and this is going to sound kind of funny, but let's say that we have a relationship that is with someone who doesn't live near us, and it's purely like flirtatious or sexual texting even, or maybe even phone sex. Well, our socially conscious brain is going to tell us that that's not an appropriate relationship because it doesn't include all of the factors. This isn't a long-term viable thing. But maybe this is a really successful and fulfilling relationship for us just within this pattern. So I was thinking, okay, well, in my opinion, I guess that this doesn't have to fit into the middle of the thing. So those two things were happening, and I'm doing some work for a foundation, and within this foundation, we were working on our kind of mission statement and purpose, and one of the other people in the foundation came across this thing in the Harvard Business Review. And it was kind of a similar... it was a compass. It wasn't a Venn diagram as the sex, dating, and intimacy thing, but it was this this compass thing, and it was to promote the understanding within a company of what your purpose is, what your values are, what you stand for, and so on and so forth. As you see in the middle of this is purpose, and then there's vision, and there's strategic operational priorities and values, and then the outside is leadership behavior. And this is kind of how you structure the entirety of what you stand for as a company. And so with all these things kind of happening at once, I was like, wait a minute, you could make a compass for your relationship. So this is kind of expanding on the idea of the Venn diagram. So now it's not we exist at the center of this sex, romance, and intimacy Venn diagram. Or love, sex, and friendship is another way it's often put. You can really flesh out exactly what you want your relationship to be like. So I adapted these two things together. So the combination of all of these things together ended up being the relationship compass, or the sex, romance, and intimacy compass, because it doesn't necessarily have to end up being a traditional relationship. So I'll show you in a second. I'll go through each piece of it in detail. But basically what you're going to see is that at the center of the compass is relationship purpose. And then around that, there's 4 subcategories, which are values, vision, big picture, promise of partnership, and partnership strategy. And don't worry, again, I'm going to go over what all of those mean specifically in detail. And then the outer ring of the compass is partner behavior, which is pretty self-explanatory, but again, I'm going to go over that. And they all have a relationship to each other. So it kind of goes from the inside out. So the inside is the purpose, and then it's how is that purpose served through these different things, and how are we going to enact the service of that purpose, basically, through the partner behavior. So here's the relationship compass. So as you can see in the middle is relationship purpose, and in parentheses it says, what do you want? So that's generally going to be something kind of vague, and it's going to depend on the relationship you want. I'm going to fill out one of these after we go over just looking at it, and so you can kind of get an idea of what might go in there. Values, and it's in parentheses, it says, what are your personal values and how are they served through the relationship? So if you've never done a values exercise, it's just kind of what is the most important thing? It's like the core of who you are. Without it, you aren't who you are. And then vision, big picture is like, what do you want down the road? What's the end goal of this relationship, if there is one? Maybe your end goal is there is no end goal. And then promise of partnership is what do you want to offer as a partner? Who are you going to be in this relationship, basically? And it could be also what is your partner going to offer you. Now this is a little different than partner behavior, because promise of partnership is like kind of more of what are the qualities, what are the feelings and sort of bigger picture things that you're going to give to your partner, like love and support and friendship and so on and so forth. And then partner behavior is more like how are you going to do that? And then partnership strategy is kind of a funny one. It's one that actually most people really overlook. We kind of expect in relationships that the perfect relationship is going to have the perfect kind of just mode of operating. You're not going to need to talk about the things you like sexually. You're just going to know each other perfectly. You're never going to fight. Everything's just going to be fluid. The way that your lives are previously arranged are going to just fit completely into each other like 2 perfect puzzle pieces. And we all kind of know that that's not reality. Maybe that's possible, but it's going to be very, very rare. So it's important to kind of design your relationship. And the examples I gave are what do you do in a fight, how do you negotiate sex life, holidays, time management, etc. So now I'm actually going to fill one of these things out, and you're kind of going to get like an over-the-shoulder view. So this is actually the printout of the compass that I had made before. And you can kind of write on here. There's obviously writing on here already. This is another one that I made, or actually my partner made, for our foundation. And you can also just write it down on a piece of paper, just make categories and write them down. I'm just going to jot down little notes. I'm not really going to write exactly because there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes in here. But so if we look at the beginning, relationship purpose, so what do you want? Now this is going to be kind of like a big, vague thing that everything else is going to fall under. And so traditional ones for maybe like a marriage type partnership might be something like, I want to go on a journey, a life journey of learning with another person, or express unbounded love to another person for an entire lifetime. Because all of the things that go into that are going to be, they're going to feed this purpose. So they're going to feed your unbounded love through your values and through marriage possibly, or whatever. But you can also do this with any type of relationship. I mean, you could do it with friendship. Your purpose could be to have the deepest friendship possible. If you're doing kind of like a casual, friends with benefits type of things, it might be to maintain a very positive friendship that includes deep sexual exploration. So you're kind of getting the idea that this is just kind of one sentence or maybe a couple sentences, and it's just kind of like, what is the big picture of what you're doing? And I say big picture here, this is kind of a different big picture. Like, what's the overarching, like, arc of your relationship? And that can mean all sorts of different types of things. So let's say, we'll put journey of love and sexuality. Sure. Sounds good. Okay, so then we'll go to values. Okay, so what are your personal values and how are they served for the relationship? So I also want to note that values can be personal values. They can also, the relationship itself can have values. So maybe you don't value teamwork personally, but your relationship values teamwork, right? So teamwork could be one. And then how is teamwork going to be served? So that's you're going to get kind of a cursory idea of that, right? Like, you're going to work together as a team, and then partner behavior will kind of flesh out what that means. When I say how here, it's more, are they being served by the relationship, or are they just your personal value being served, or are they the relationship value being served? So another big one for people might be independence. This is something that's very important in relationships. Adventure, right? So are you guys going to have kind of a routine where you build into having this great, we do our jobs and we come back and we have our time together? Or is it going to be like a world adventure with two people? Another value could be, oh gosh, there's all sorts of values that people have. Freedom, right? So that's kind of an odd one. How is freedom served in a relationship? And really you can kind of, you can put anything in here. I mean, values don't have to be things that are traditionally values. You could have a value of ice cream, right? And that means something to you. So if you want to learn more about values exercises, you can write me an email or coach with me, or find yourself a coach or someone who knows about values. So we'll kind of move on from that for this exercise. Vision, big picture. So this is probably the most straightforward one. It's like, do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? Do you want to own a home? Do you want to never live together? Do you want to live together? Do you want to, if you have kids, do you want to be the dad, the stay-at-home dad? Or do you want your wife to stay at home? Are you both going to work? Or, are you going to, do you want to retire and then move somewhere else and then start traveling? Or, so on and so forth. So that's like, where do you see this thing going long term? For a purely sexual or open relationship, or something that's not at the center of the sex, romance, and intimacy thing, maybe you're going to have a different vision. Maybe your vision is, I'm going to become very in tune with my sexuality and then move on and try and find something that's in the center of this relationship. And this brings up kind of another interesting point about relationships in general, is honesty. It's not on the compass, really. I mean, you could have a value of honesty, but the most important thing to make this compass happen for you is being really, really honest with yourself. And if you're doing it with your partner, really, really honest with them. Because if your goal in your relationship is to have a purely sexual relationship and they're not on the same page, well, that's going to be a problem. That doesn't have a lot of integrity to it. So honesty is kind of like the overarching, kind of foundation field of what this exists in. Okay, and so then there's promise of partnership. This could be something like, what do you want to offer as a partner? So what would be one of those things? So I want to offer, support in tough times. I want to offer my knowledge, perhaps, right? So maybe you know a lot about something and they're going to come to you, support. Being a friend. Some relationships don't really have built-in friendships. That's something we assume, but friendship can be kind of different in a relationship than it is normally. Maybe you're going to be you're going to offer them all of your money, right? I mean, that could be kind of you're offering their support both financially and emotionally. So then partnership strategy, this is the one that I think is really, really interesting. And, a lot of people are going to think about these types of things, right? Maybe not explicitly in these sorts of categories, but they're going to think about them. This is really odd. In life coaching school, they told us that we need to design our coaching relationship. So what does that mean? Well, you're really negotiating what are you going to do when certain things come up. And these are things that often cause a lot of fights, right? So let's let go of the desire to be these perfect people and really be honest about what the human experience is like. So these are some examples I already have down. What do you do in a fight? How do you negotiate sex life? What do you do over the holidays? Time management. Other things could be like, how much time are you going to spend together versus apart? How are you going to honor your friendships and your family relationships, both with your partner and not with your partner? Are you going to do guys' trips or girls' trips or whatever it may be? So then the outer ring is partner behavior. Now, these are really, really specific things. This might be, I'm going to get, to honor the value, let's say that you have a value of appreciation. So to honor the appreciation value, I'm going to get my partner flowers every week. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, that's not really special if this is built in, but actually it can be because, right? I mean, you're really honoring what's important to them. So it's not this hokey thing. If it's really built into the value of your relationship, this is almost more real than surprise flowers, right? Okay, so another thing could be like, I'm going to, a sexual thing could be, I'm going to totally please you for one entire sexual encounter once a week, and then vice versa or something like that. So, this would probably have an infinite list. I mean, people have all sorts of things, that they're going to want. And also, partner behavior is an interesting one because it can include it can include actual behavior. It can also include physical traits, right? So is your partner going to have blue eyes? Are they going to be kind? Are they going to be kind of a jerk? Are they going to have tattoos, piercings? Are they going to be really family oriented? Are they going to not have any relationship with their family? Are they going to be well traveled? Are they going to have a lot of sexual experience, or are they not going to have a lot of sexual experience?
So that's a brief explanation of the relationship compass and how it works and how you can use it in your own life and own relationships. As I said before, I think that even if you don't have a relationship, this is really useful in really getting clear about what it is you want, because then it's actually easier to attract and sift through potential partners and mates. Also, if you're in a relationship, this is a really powerful tool that you could use either by yourself to get clear about some things that you want to change, or use with your partner. You could both do a compass and then compare them and see what you could do some work on. If you have any questions about it, or you want to work with me, coach with me, or if you want a copy of the compass or a diagram that you can use to make your own, feel free to email me. My email is aaronfsteinberg@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.